Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar series, and we are delighted today to welcome Royce Gomez, founder of RoyceTalks. Royce has been a recognized leader and authority for coaching and training entrepreneurs and executives. Royce has spoken to audience ranging from 20 to 1,000 plus. Her articles have been published in the Huffington Post, Unlimited Woman, Small Business Expert Forum, and she is the author of 27 Secrets of Marketing, Your Ticket to Maximum Revenue and the Secrets of Leadership, leading you to achieve your maximum potential. Royce has effectively coached successful business owners and written content for hundreds of companies. Royce, besides being an established expert in her field, has also decided to rejoin our sponsorship team at 4Gen Now Summit in October, on October 12th, and most importantly, has become a great friend. So, Royce, thank you very much for making time to speak to our community of intergenerational entrepreneurs of 4Gen Now. Royce, the floor and PowerPoint and webinar is in your hands.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate being here, and it's wonderful to be a part of 4Gen Now and the movement that you are really leading the charge for, because we do have a very interesting, dynamic workplace with 4 generations in the workplace that communicate differently, that receive information differently, and most importantly, what we're going to be talking about today, they need to be marketed to differently. So let's dive right in, shall we, Jim?
Sounds great. And Royce, as we get questions from our community, that oftentimes I do, is it okay if I just mention those in the chat and you can take a look?
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
All right, guys, one thing you'll learn about me is I'm not technology driven. Just every day, I do not, I'm not good at it. So if we have technical challenges, please understand. I don't think that we need to focus on this slide because, Jim, you did a great job introducing me. So now I just want to thank 4Gen Now, as I have, for allowing me to speak. And let's dive right into the meat.
Sounds great.
You'll find that I'm very succinct and focused and like to dive right in without extraneous conversation and give you all that you came to this webinar to receive. So the baby boomers love brand loyalty. You'll hear the baby boomers that they've used Dove soap for 40 years, or they've been with Farmers Insurance for 40 years. And they are truly a loyal crowd to your brand. Now, the way that we need to market to this brand is they love to be upsold. They love entertainment and wine, and they buy the most prescription medicine. I'm really not kidding about that. I learned that during my research. But they know the value of a service and how it will make their lives easier without feeling pushed. So if you can upsell them, for an extra $10, you get this, and it is entertaining or functional, like their meds. They are happy to add a little bit more to their ticket and create a higher sale for you. The other thing that baby boomers love to receive is cash back. 48% of boomers rely on their credit cards. And if you are a credit card that provides cash back or airline miles or hotel rewards, they love having a credit card like that because, again, they feel like they're being upsold. They're getting more value than what they're paying for. Baby boomers have done quite well financially. And so think full price. They like top shelf products. No one in their late 50s, early 60s wants to have, $3 chuck from Trader Joe's in their wine cabinet, or a $7 bottle of wine, or used furniture off of Craigslist. to downsize for their home. They really want to know that they've planned well and can afford what they want. So here's your strategy. They need a traditional multimedia approach. In other words, they want to be sold through mail, email, television, over the phone, direct marketing, face-to-face offers. They really want multiple ways of communication. Another fact to consider in your marketing message, because I have written over 100,000 pieces of content, so I want to add a bonus here and share this with you. Boomers don't ever want to get old. So they respond best to messages that talk about the future and speak to their goals and dreams, and they want to pursue those until the day they die. So if you are creating a message to the boomer, you want it to feel hip and sexy and youthful in your context. And that will be what the boomer responds to. So let's go to the Gen Xers. Jim, they are your next generation in the workplace. And again, it's very complex to market to 4 different generations, but if you understand their hot buttons and what's important to them, you can target them well. So why do I have these 2 price tags on here? Well, they love coupons. Unlike the boomers, Gen Xers like a good deal. They respond well to social enterprise too. If they cannot get a good deal and save money, they at least want to feel like they are doing good for their environment, for the community. They really want to make a difference in the world. And if you think about fun in the sun, 2/3 of Gen Xers with a household income of $250,000 or more plan on taking a vacation in the next 12 months. Now, if you say, hey, I'm a Gen Xer and I don't have that income yet, I'm still building my future. Half of Gen Xers with incomes of less than $250,000 still plan on taking a vacation. And something very interesting about marketing to Gen Xers, the email is something that you would expect, right? They love email marketing, but they don't want an aggressive message. But here's something you may not expect the Gen Xer to like. Direct mail. And I know direct mail has seen a decline over the years, and in the elderly marketplace, it's actually seeing a great decline, which is surprising. But among Gen Xers, direct mail is working. 86% of this generation brings in their mail every day, and 68% have used coupons that they've seen and received in the mail. So they are responding. 68% of them have responded to something that they've gotten in the mail. Now, how can you market to them? Again, it's important not to only understand what medium they want to be marketed to, but how to market to them. Something that you can keep in mind as you market to the Gen Xer is to market to them by explaining what they can expect from your brand and how the product benefits them. Avoid aggressive sales tactics. They are very weary of such things. And they really do like TV, radio, and direct mail. So some old school marketing techniques. Gen Xers also like to play it safe and respond well to offerings that protect families, homes, and the planet. They are more conservative than boomers. So when you are creating a marketing message, you want to use language that talks about competent planners and playing it safe and protecting what's important to them, the assets that they're working so hard to build up. Let's go on to the most talked about generation of our time, I think. The millennials get a often bad rap of being lazy and unmotivated and many things. They get a bad rap in the workplace, but really the millennials are so, so important to our workforce. And I think that they get an undeserved bad rap. I personally have hired millennials in my business and worked with them as interns and think that they are brilliant. And often you'll hear me call myself during one of my speaking engagements a misplaced millennial. I don't know, Jim, if you feel that way sometimes, but I know I do.
Definitely, definitely. Maybe even a Gen Zer.
And maybe I can relate. So what speaks to a millennial with your marketing message? Innovation. Innovation is so important. They want to know that they're using products on the cutting edge of technology, and they are being the early adopters of brands. So that's very important to them. Using reviews. Social media advertising, that's something of course you'd expect. Millennials are on social media and they respond to Facebook and Instagram and everything. Now, here's a stat that was shocking to me. 93% of millennials listen to radio 2 hours a day. No, not Sirius XM, not their playlists. They actually listen to radio. So radio advertising can be a great medium for reaching your millennials. But what do you say to the millennial in your marketing message? Again, the number one thing that they like is what their friends say. If you can get reviews and capture the words of other millennials, that's all the verification that they need, that your brand is the superior brand and that they need to have it. But what else can you do to promote your message if you're marketing to a millennial? Well, they seek out products that have social, environmental, or ethical value versus purchasing luxury items and status symbols. So it's much like the client that I was working with out of LA yesterday, that they have a social impact on what they do, and it weaves throughout their business model and their marketing message, and millennials will respond to that. Promoting how a company is helping the community will attract their interest far more than promoting the luxury of a brand. There is a free digital download that I've offered in the past to grow my database, and that's about using a press release and the ways that press releases are underutilized in the for-profit space. So for all you entrepreneurs out there that have a business, if you are not using a press release, it's very underutilized. And millennials respond well to hearing how a company is helping the community or helping a cause that's of interest to them. So if you're not using a press release, this is a highly underutilized free way of getting advertising. And some of you who are familiar with my training, I talk a lot about free or low-cost grassroots marketing efforts to help your business. And that's just one that I really want to point out that works well for a millennial. The other thing, obviously, if they use social media and they look online for their friends' reviews, a strong online presence is a must. This includes blogs and social media platforms, but they need to be able to interact with your brand. They consume most of their information on mobile devices, so you have to make sure this content comes up readily on their mobile devices. And they are the least likely generation to be responsive to traditional media. As we have mentioned with the boomers and the Gen Xers who respond to radio and TV and other traditional media, a millennial will not respond as well. Millennials are comfortable around marketing messages, though. They've grown up in a time that has increased communication, and they have seen how we've gone from sparse communication to having it available readily everywhere they go. They want to be heard and acknowledged and entertained by brands, but in return, they'll support those brands. So make sure that you're easily accessible online for a millennial. And we are just flying through this information. I hope it's great nuggets. We have covered 3 of the 4 generations, and they are probably the most widely understood of the generations in the workplace. But we have one more that is entering the workplace, and although they are young, they are important to be understood because they do have buying decisions that they are helping to make. So our Gen Y generation, they are different. They love empathy marketing, really relating to the cause, the brand. They want to feel connected to that brand. And if they can feel connected, it's a deeper level than the social enterprise that the millennials are attracted to. You hear a lot about empathy training in the corporate space right now, and there are some speakers who do keynotes on empathy within your brand. And this is important to begin to understand as you capture this young buyer to your brand. If they are who you're targeting, understand what empathy marketing means and does. And I am not going to go into that too much. There are some great white papers that you can pull up on Google and really get an understanding, because I think it's more than just answering a question at the end of this. It's really grasping an understanding for it. The other thing that Gen Y looks for is listening to their needs through online and offline engagement. They want to be connected to offline. And one of the key pieces that I teach in my keynote on networking is how important connecting offline at a chamber mixer or around a dinner table with community leaders is to bringing those skills in online. Because despite the fact that a person has a picture on LinkedIn, that is not just a flat 2D picture. That's a real human that wants to be connected to behind that space. You're hearing a train go by. I am based in Colorado, and Coloradoans are notorious for living outside in their world and taking advantage of 300 plus days of sunshine. So I'm out on my back deck and you're hearing a train about a mile away. So I apologize for that.
No worries, Royce. Don't talk too much about how great the weather is, because you'll get we Bostonians, even more people moving into the Denver area, which I know you don't need.
Yeah, let me shut up about that, because we do have an influx of outsiders coming into the state, and we're trying to keep it a secret a bit longer. So I won't talk about being on my back deck now.
Got it.
All right, so how do you market to Gen Y? Well, they are young. So remember, social media and social impact, they are all about social. If you remember that key word, online and offline, you will hit the Gen Y. So Jim, we have blown through that, and I want to tell people how they can connect with me. Great. For more, but I know that you have some questions, and we have some audience members, and we have a special bonus offer that I'm giving just for 4Gen Now attendees and members. So we'll talk about that later, but that's the end of my actual presentation, and now I'm just going to share my camera if we can, and awesome. Say hello to the folks out there. There I am.
There you are, Royce. Awesome. And so Why don't I just share? I have 3 questions. Make sure I was scribbling them down for some of our members that are listening via phone.
Excellent.
Okay. About your book, Tony, from our in our Denver 4Gen chapter, he's asking about how do you get, because he's an aspiring author, and with your book, The 27 Secrets of Marketing, that I did fortunately enjoy, take a look at, and I've enjoyed reading. And I noticed, Royce, that you have 2 celebrity endorsements, if you will. One of whom is from a guy that I know that I knew well years ago, but he's a titan in terms of motivational speaking and positive performance, and that's Brian Tracy. I was less aware of John Formica, but the question from Tony is about celebrity endorsements. How do you get, which one of your 27 tips, or is there a combination, have you used to secure celebrity endorsements, is what Tony's asking.
Well, Tony, hello from further south in Colorado. And guys, for those of you not familiar with my book, here's a picture of it on the screen. You can find it on my website. So, Jim, if any of them are less familiar and have not read it as you have, that's what it looks like. Now, which 27 secrets created the opportunity to get celebrity endorsements? Not really any of them in the book, because the book is all about using grassroots, low cost, no cost ways to market your startup business. I work with hundreds of startups a year in how to market, and they don't have a huge budget. So it's things that they can implement instantaneously to market their business. And so to answer your question on how to get celebrity endorsements, obviously it's a longer process than this answer is, but really connecting with people online and offline. Use your social networks to meet people and get to know them. The second part of that, which is key, is finding influencers. Because when you find an influencer, they can make those strategic introductions for you. And it is a process, and it is a relationship building process that's important to not get the cart before the horse. You know, you don't just walk up to a speaker at a conference who is famous like Brian Tracy and say, would you endorse my book? He has no background on you, no background of relatedness and why he should endorse you or why you feel you are important enough to be endorsed. So really having that influencer that can make connections and strategic introductions for you is key, but you can't do that without networking first. And it all boils down to relationships, Jim. As you know, building 4Gen now across the country and even across continents, because we're speaking in Europe soon for 4Gen now. It really is about relationships, and those don't happen overnight. So, Tony, I hope that answered your question.
Excellent, excellent. Another question, this time from Amanda that I got via email, a boomer from Colorado Springs. So her question is, she's in a transition right now, and she feels like I'd like to get your input how to possibly kind of reinvent myself to be more not just professionally desirable in the workplace, but also she's thinking about finding an intergenerational business partner, which is why she's on the call. But that's her question about reinventing herself. Maybe you could talk about that. And, you know, as a boomer, I can definitely see the importance of that, because it seems like, much to the chagrin of my wife of 27 years, I attempt to reinvent myself too frequently. So what advice would you have to Amanda and myself and other boomers out there, Royce?
Jim, thanks for that question. And Amanda, thanks for joining us. There are a lot of Coloradoans, obviously, on the seminar today. And so thanks for joining me. And we have beautiful weather here. To answer your question about reinventing yourself, I have done that 5 times successfully. As an entrepreneur, Jim, like you know, I've been around the entrepreneurship space for about 30 years, and no longer have a spouse to annoy with that, but I have gone through the reinvention process. And one of the most profound, to keep this story short, was working with affluent clientele in the upscale salons of Chicago as an image consultant, and then moving out to Colorado with all this back to nature stuff. And I no longer had a client base for image consulting, and I had to reinvent myself. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it happened quite by accident. I fulfilled a childhood dream to buy horses, and had horses for the first time in my life in my mid-30s, and ended up creating a business from just purchasing horses for personal use, and had that business for 8 years. So the most dramatic reinvention that I've gone through so far is to go from image consultant and high-end salons to scooping horse poop in my 30s. And again, I did that successfully. I had that business for 8.5 years. So reinvention is possible, and working with a coach that can help you, as I do with my clients, is key to success. I am part of a group of about 60,000 entrepreneurs on Facebook. And daily, I hear women post on there, because it's an all-female group, about, oh, I have this passion to do these 5 things, but I don't know how to create an income, or I've been working my passion for 4 months and haven't made a sale yet. And when you feel that frustration of being stuck and helpless and thinking that your business is not going to grow, you need a coach that can walk you through how to take your passion from idea to implementation, and most importantly, to a sustainable revenue stream. Because you can have a passion all day long, but if you can't figure out how to make it a business, it's just a hobby. One client that I worked with a few months ago said, I have these 3 businesses and I want to make $3,000 a month. And I said, each? And she said, no, total. I said, well, if you have a passion and you're only able to generate a maximum of $1,000 a month from that passion, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. So I work with my clients to go from idea to implementation to revenue stream, which is the key. Amanda, did that answer your question, I hope?
I'm getting an email, yes.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim.
So let's see, one more question I have here. Helen, I jotted this down as you were talking. You spoke about marketing to Gen Xers and how coupons, you mentioned coupons are good deals. So Brett from Boston, hey. Brett from Boston is asking what you have found to be the most, if there's one marketing tip, an online marketing tip, not offline, because I know you mentioned that, Royce, in terms of coupons and I think loving direct mail. But what is your go-to tip to market to Gen Xers, is what Brett's asking.
Yeah, I think that you have to go to 2 iconic brands that most of us have heard of and think about Groupon and Airbnb. Groupon has created a space for startup businesses and business hoping to generate more traffic to offer the deal of the century to draw that person in, and then based on their delivery of excellence with that product or service, they can keep those clients coming back. And then Airbnb, if you think about an average hotel room, just your basic hotel room can be $100 a night. and one that you want to stay in at the next level up can easily be 175, 225 a night. And yet Airbnb, most places around the country, you can get a nice, clean, basic room in someone's home for $50 a night. So those two brands have taken the money-saving concept and have really refined that and become standards for us to implement and copy. And the greatest compliment of anybody is to copy and replicate an idea that you've been good at implementing. And I don't know what kind of business you have or what product or service you sell to be specific to you, but that's what I would recommend.
Okay, great. Bob is asking from Los Angeles. Royce, Bob's asking, could you talk a little bit more about how to use the press release, which you say, and he mentions, is very underutilized. How have you been most successful deploying the press release to generate new business?
Okay, I think we had technical difficulties there for a moment. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine.
Perfect. Oops. I don't know where I went on video, but okay. I'm lost, but you can hear me, Jim says.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the ideas on underutilized ways to use press releases are on a downloadable PDF that I'll be happy to send. If you go on RoyceTalks.com and give me your name and email and just in the comments put press release, I will send that to you this afternoon. One underutilized way that for-profits don't use it is by announcing a new employee or a new product or service that you're offering. When you think of press releases, the nonprofit space uses them well because you'll hear press releases on their annual gala, their golf tournament, all the events that they have for fundraising. But as a for-profit business, you can use it too. So two ideas are new employee and new product or service, and I go into more detail on that downloadable doc if you'd like to request it.
Excellent. Royce, those are all the questions that I have, at least from this at this point, from our community members. But now I get to ask you a question. So,
okay, awesome.
On the reinvention, okay, let's just talk about that. I mean, and you and I, we've had a little bit of a conversation before we began our your webinar today. But very soon, we boomers, me in the boomer camp, we're going to be living. I read a report recently. There are about a little under 500,000 centenarians, I think, in the U.S., but that amount is supposed to like quintuple in the next 20 years. So, I mean, we boomers living a high probability that we will be living in healthy, hopefully, in our 80s, 90s, and even up to 100. I mean, do we need to kind of like phase in or don't rush our reinvention? I mean, we'll be reinventing ourselves from like 50 on umpteen times. So what did you personally find most enjoyable? What did you find most challenging? And for those of our 4Gen Now community members that are really thinking about reinventing themselves in a legitimate business, as you would distinguish, as opposed to a hobby, what overall advice would you give them? I hope that was not too rambling a question.
No, and those statistics are fascinating. I did not know those statistics, but I know that there are reasons behind why we have to invent. Number one, just as an entrepreneur, your brain is constantly thinking of new ideas, and you find new passions and uncover really who you are as you continue to age and go through seasons of life with, pre-marriage and then early marriage and having kids and then empty nesting, etc. So the reasons for reinvention are that your mind is always working. The second reason that we have to invent is technology is moving so fast that, Jim, you and I did not have Google in our house when we grew up. We did not have DVR. If we weren't home to watch our favorite show, we missed it. And we have gone from that to where we have shows on demand 24/7, and we can watch them at our own convenience, and we can see people around the world. And we had phones that had calling plans where we were paying 80 cents or $1 a minute to call internationally, and now we have WhatsApp and Skype and Google Hangout where we can do all that internationally for free pretty much. So technology has caused has prompted us to need to reinvent because the world is just working differently, and I would say that that's a huge part of why we must reinvent. The other part of why we must reinvent is corporations. I come from a family where I had my mom and my aunts and uncles who worked for a major Fortune 100 company, and they worked there for 40 years and had a retirement plan and a gold watch at the end. And companies are not offering those retirement packages today. So the third reason we have to reinvent is we are responsible for our own retirement. And that's so important to understand. So now that we know the three main reasons why we have to reinvent, I'll go into answering your question on how to reinvent. And the first thing that I truly believe is to know what your passions are. Because if you are just operating a business to make money, you're probably not going to be very engaged and stick with it through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship to make it happen for you. So it's really important to find your passion. And I spoke to a group of about 50 entrepreneurs the other day, and one woman stood up and said, well, she's talking about making $100,000, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about helping people. And the thing that you have to get is you can do both. You can help people make money and pursue your passion, all three. And when all those three meet in a concentric circle, that's when you have the sweet spot and you're doing something that will be lasting. But as I said during part of the webinar, you can't just find your passion. You have to go from idea to implementation to generating a revenue stream. Because if your passion is riding bikes, but you can't generate money from it, how do you live, right? And I was talking to an organization this week who have generated a business model and an income stream out of riding bikes. So it doesn't matter what your passion is. The important thing is that you work with a coach who can take you from idea to implementation to revenue stream and create a business model around that and continue to refine it. Does that answer?
Yeah. Yes. Well said. Thoroughly answered, Royce. We just have a couple of minutes left. I don't have any more. Well, I probably could ask you questions for another hour or so, but out of respect for everybody's time, yours especially, and our community members listening, what final thoughts or how can they get back in touch with you? What is your preference in terms of communication? And tell us a little bit about if we'd like to engage more with RoyceTalks, how do we do that?
Yeah, before we run out of time, since we are close to running out of time, you and I had spoken about a very special offer.
Yes.
for just 4Gen members. So if you want to connect with me further and get some of these tools that you can use that are low cost or no cost to really propel your business to that next level this year, reach out to me, because speed and implementation are the keys to taking your business to the next level. So if you're ready, here's what I'm offering. You can have access right now to a monthly live group webinar for the next 6 months. And if you're not available during the live recording, I will send you the recording for you to hear again up on demand at your own conveniently scheduled time, because that's the way we do technology today. And you'll have access to this monthly training for the next 6 months. And you'll receive the 27 videos that a lot of them I'm taking from this book, and some of them are bonus material that are not covered in this book, but you'll have 27 other videos that will be sent to you once a week for 27 weeks. And that is for a small investment of $197. Now, guys, hang on. I am going to pull this back up and show you the breakdown of that. That's $1 a day, less than $1 a day, guys, for pennies. If your business is not worth that, you probably need to find another business that you think highly enough of that you would invest $1 a day. Guys, I'm giving this to you as a screaming deal, and it's for 4Gen Now members only. This is not offered on my website. So that's how you can connect with me. We've lost our screen again. I have no idea where I am, Jim.
No worries. No worries.
But yeah, if you want to connect with me, go on my website, RoyceTalks.com or coachingwithroyce.com, and let me know how I can add value to you. If it's that free PDF for press releases, or if it's the 6-month program or something else, I would be happy to serve you.
Fantastic. Royce, to the minute, we are out of time. Thank you very, very much from all of our 4Gen Now members on the webinar, especially from myself and my co-founder, my daughter, Samantha. Thank you for making time. Thank you for your trust. Royce, you've been one of the earliest and most passionate adopters and supporters of 4Gen Now. Thank you very, very much. Look forward to seeing you in Denver.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim, and I will see you soon in Denver.
Thank you very much, Royce. Bye now.
Bye-bye.